Will the next wave of weight loss medications change everything? Welcome back to Sipping on Wellness. Whether you're out for a walk, driving down the road, or enjoying a quiet moment with your favorite drink, I'm glad you're here. If you've been paying attention to health news lately, you've probably noticed that we're entering a new chapter in the weight loss conversation. Not long ago, most people had never heard of the term GLP-1. Now it seems these medications are everywhere. You hear about them on social media, you see them in the news, friends are talking about them, healthcare providers are discussing them, and just when it feels like we're finally getting familiar with medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, and Zepbound, there's already another wave on the horizon. Oral medications that don't require injections. Dual agonist. Triple agonists like retatrutide that are generated in a tremendous amount of excitement. And if the headlines are to be believed, these medications could completely change the future of weight loss. So naturally, people are paying attention. And I understand why. For many women, especially in midlife, weight loss has felt increasingly difficult. What worked in their 30s no longer works in their 40s and 50s. Hormones change, sleep changes, stress accumulates, muscle mass declines, and sometimes it can feel the harder you try, the less your body responds. So when a new medication promises significant weight loss, improved blood sugar control, and better metabolic outcomes, it's understandable that people want to know more. Today's episode isn't about deciding whether these medications are good or bad. It's not about convincing you to take one or convincing you not to. Instead, I want to have a conversation about what these medications may mean for the future of health and weight loss, why there's so much excitement surrounding them, and what I think are some important questions worth asking as we move forward. Because while these medications may be changing the landscape of weight loss, I don't think they're changing everything. And that's a distinction that matters. Before we go any further, a quick reminder, I'm not your doctor, and this podcast isn't intended to diagnose, treat, or replace individualized medical care. My goal is to share research, education, and practical insights to help you better understand your health and ask more informed questions. As always, before making changes to your nutrition, supplements, medications, or healthcare plan, please consult with a qualified healthcare provider who knows your individual situation. Today, I want to explore what makes these medications different, why they're creating so much attention, and perhaps most importantly, what they reveal about the way we think about weight loss, metabolism, and health. Before we talk about the medication themselves, I think it's important to acknowledge why so many people are paying attention. For decades, weight loss advice has largely centered around eating less and moving more. While there's certainly truth in the importance of nutrition and physical activity, many people have discovered that weight regulation is far more complex than a simple math equation, especially in midlife. I've had countless conversations with women who tell me they're eating similarly to how they always have, yet their bodies are responding differently. They're exercising consistently, trying to make healthy choices, and doing many of the things that they've been told should work. Yet the scale continues to move in a direction they don't want it to. That can be incredibly frustrating. When that frustration continues for months or years, it often becomes about much more than weight. People start worrying about their health. They wonder what these changes mean for their future. They become concerned about blood sugar, cardiovascular risk, mobility, energy, and quality of life. In other words, most people aren't simply chasing a smaller number on the scale. They're actually looking for relief or hope. They're looking for something that helps them feel like their efforts finally matter. And that's one of the reasons these medications have generated so much excitement. For some individuals, they represent the first time they've experienced a meaningful change in appetite, cravings, weight, or blood sugar regulation, despite years of trying other approaches. That's significant. It's also why I think these conversations deserve more nuance than they sometimes receive online. Because on one side, you'll find people who view these medications as the answer to everything. And then on the other side, you'll find people who dismiss them entirely. But most health conversations don't live at the extremes. The reality is usually somewhere in the middle. These medications appear to be helping many people. That's worth acknowledging. At the same time, I don't think the most interesting question is whether they're effective. The more interesting question is, what are people really hoping these medications will solve? Because when someone says they want to lose weight, they're often talking about something deeper. They want more energy. They want to become comfortable in their body again. They want to reduce health risks or to keep up with their grandchildren. They simply want to feel like themselves again. And I think that's an important distinction because if we're only talking about pounds lost, we may miss the bigger conversation about health, vitality, and quality of life. And that's where I'd like to spend the rest of our time today. One of the reasons I found this topic so interesting is that I don't think these medications are simply changing how we approach weight loss. I think they're exposing some assumptions we've held for a very long time. For years, much of the conversation around weight centered on willpower. If someone was struggling to lose weight, the advice often sounded something like, just eat less and move more. While there's certainly truth in that importance of nutrition and physical activity, many people felt frustrated because their experience didn't always match that message. They were trying and they were making healthier choices. They were even exercising consistently, yet their bodies weren't responding the way they expected. That's one of the reasons these medications have gained so much attention. They forced us to acknowledge something many people have suspected for years. Weight regulation is far more complex than we once believed. The body is constantly responding to a variety of signals: hormone influences, appetite, cravings. Blood sugar regulation affects energy levels and hunger. Sleep quality impacts food choices and recovery. Stress can influence everything from eating habits to metabolic function. Even muscle mass plays a role in how the body uses and stores energy. When all of those systems are working well together, maintaining a healthy weight often feels easier. When they're not, it can feel like you're constantly swimming upstream. And I think that's been one of the most important contributions these medications have made to the conversation. They've helped shift the discussion away from the idea that weight is simply a matter of discipline and toward a greater appreciation for the biological systems that influence metabolism. But at the same time, I think there's another lesson worth paying attention to. Just because something helps someone lose weight doesn't automatically mean it improves every aspect of health. Weight loss and metabolic health are certainly related, but they aren't always the same thing. Someone can lose weight while still struggling with poor sleep, chronic stress, low muscle mass, inadequate nutrition, or other challenges that influence long-term health and quality of life. That's why I find myself coming back to the simple question, what are we actually trying to improve? If the answer is overall health, then weight is certainly part of the conversation, but it isn't the entire conversation. When most people tell me they want to lose weight, what they're often describing is something deeper. They want more energy. They want to feel stronger. They want to reduce health risks. They want to move more comfortably. They want to feel confident in their bodies again. In many cases, they're really seeking a better quality of life. And that's why I think this conversation matters so much. These medications may help people lose weight. For some individuals, they may become an important part of their health journey. But perhaps their greatest contribution is that they're encouraging us to have more thoughtful conversation about metabolism, health, and what true well-being actually looks like. And honestly, I think that's a conversation worth having. Whenever a new health intervention gains this much attention, I think it's important to look at both the opportunities and the trade-offs. And to be fair, there are some very real reasons people are excited about these medications. Many individuals are experiencing meaningful weight loss. Some are seeing improvements in blood sugar regulation, cardiovascular risk factors, and overall metabolic markers. Others describe something they often refer to as food noise becoming quieter for the first time in years. For people who have struggled with constant hunger, cravings, or feeling like they're fighting their bodies every day, that can certainly be life-changing. Those experiences shouldn't be dismissed. At the same time, I think it's important to recognize that every intervention comes with questions worth considering. One of the conversations happening right now is around muscle mass. When someone loses a significant amount of weight, we naturally want to know where that weight is coming from. Ideally, we want the body to lose excess fat while preserving as much muscle as possible. That's important because muscle plays a major role in metabolic health, strength, mobility, and healthy aging. As a result, conversations around protein intake and resistance training have become increasingly important alongside these medications. Another question involves what happens beyond the initial weight loss phase. If someone loses weight but never develops habits that support long-term health, What happens when that medication changes or stops? That's not a criticism of the medication. It's simply an acknowledgement that sustainable health often requires more than a single intervention. And then there's the question I find myself asking most often: is metabolic health improving alongside the weight loss? Because while weight loss may be one marker of progress, it's not the only marker. How is energy or strength? How is sleep or blood sugar regulation? And most importantly, how is overall quality of life? These questions matter because they help us keep the focus on health rather than becoming overly focused on a number on the scale. I think that's where some of the most productive conversations are happening right now. Not whether these medications are good or bad, not whether everyone should take them or no one should take them, but how can we use them wisely while continuing to support the broader foundations of health? Because ultimately, I don't think the goal is simply losing weight. The goal is building a body that supports the life you want to live. The future of weight loss may be changing, but the foundations of health are not. That's not meant to diminish what these medications can do. For some people, they may provide a level of support that wasn't previously available. That may help improve appetite regulation, blood sugar control, and weight loss in ways that genuinely improve quality of life. Those are meaningful benefits, and I think it's important to acknowledge them. At the same time, even the most effective medication exists within the larger context of a person's life. It can influence appetite and weight, but it can't replace the habits that support long-term health and well-being. Let's look at habits that promote healthy aging. For example, muscle mass remains one of the most important factors in healthy aging: metabolic function, strength, and mobility. While a medication may support weight loss, preserving and building muscle still requires adequate protein intake, resistance training, and consistent movement over time. The same is true for sleep. We know that sleep influences everything from hunger and cravings to recovery, mood, and blood sugar regulation. A medication may help address one piece of the puzzle, but it doesn't eliminate the body's need for quality sleep. Stress is another good example. Most of us have experienced seasons where stress affected our energy, food choices, digestion, motivation, and overall health. While a medication may support one aspect of metabolism, it doesn't remove the physiological impact of chronic stress or the need to create space for recovery and restoration. As I look at the research and the conversations surrounding these medications, I find myself returning to a simple question: how does this fit into the bigger picture of health? Because ultimately, I don't think most people are simply trying to lose weight. They're hoping for more energy. They want to feel stronger. They want to move comfortably, reduce health risks, and improve their quality of life. Those goals often involve much more than what happens on a scale. That's why I would encourage anyone to think about these medications as tools rather than solutions. A tool can be incredibly valuable. It can create momentum, support progress, and make certain aspects of the journey easier. But the tool works best when it's combined with the habits that support long-term health. In many ways, that's what I think this entire conversation comes back to. New medications may change some aspects of weight management, but they don't replace the everyday practices that help us build strength, resilience, energy, and overall health. Those foundations still matter, and I suspect they always will. As I was thinking about this episode, I couldn't help but notice how easy it is to place our hope in the next breakthrough, not just in health, but in life. We tell ourselves that once we find the right answer, solve the problem, or reach the next milestone, everything will feel different. Sometimes that hope gets attached to a new opportunity, a new season, or a new circumstance. Other times it gets attached to a medication, a treatment, or a solution we believe will finally change things for us. While there's nothing wrong with pursuing better health or taking advantage of tools that may help us, I think it's important to remember where our ultimate hope comes from. One of the themes we see throughout Scripture is the idea of stewardship. We're called to care for what God has entrusted to us, including our bodies, our minds, our relationships, and our resources. Stewardship isn't about perfection. It's about wisdom. It's about asking good questions. It's about making thoughtful decisions. It's about recognizing that while tools can be helpful, they were never meant to carry the weight of our hope. That's one of the reasons I think this conversation around weight loss medication is so interesting. It invites us to think carefully about the difference between using a tool wisely and expecting the tool to solve everything. For some people, these medications may become part of a thoughtful and effective health strategy. For others, they may not be the right fit. Those decisions are personal and should be made with the guidance of a qualified healthcare provider. But regardless of where someone lands, the invitation remains the same: to care for the body we've been given, to pursue health with wisdom rather than fear, to make decisions from a place of stewardship rather than desperation, and to remember that our value was never determined by a number on a scale. I think that's especially important in a culture that constantly tells us we're one improvement away from finally being enough. Scripture tells a different story. Our worth isn't earned through weight loss, perfect health, or ideal circumstances. It's already established in the God who created us, knows us, and loves us. And when we begin from that place, something shifts. We can pursue better health without becoming consumed by it. We can use helpful tools without placing our identity in them. And we can make thoughtful decisions without believing that every choice carries the weight of our future happiness. To me, that's what stewardship looks like. Not perfection, not fear, not obsession. Simply caring well for what God has entrusted us while trusting Him with the outcomes. As we wrap up today's conversation, I want to return to the question we started with. Will the next wave of weight loss medications change everything? My answer would be yes and no. I do think these medications have the potential to change the weight loss landscape. They may provide new options for people who have struggled for years. They may improve blood sugar regulation, support meaningful weight loss, and help some individuals gain momentum in ways that weren't previously possible. Those are significant developments, and I think they're worth paying attention to. At the same time, I don't believe they're changing the fundamental principles of health. The body will still benefit from adequate protein, strength training, quality sleep, stress management, and consistent movement. Building muscle will still matter. Blood sugar regulation will still matter. The daily habits that support long-term health will still matter. That's why I think the most important question isn't whether these medications work. It's how they fit into the bigger picture. Because ultimately, most people aren't simply looking for weight loss. They're looking for more energy, better health, greater confidence, improved mobility, and a higher quality of life. And while medications may help support those goals, they don't replace the foundations that help make them possible. If you'd like help thinking through these foundations, I've linked my free Where I'd Start With guides in the show notes. Whether you're focused on hormones, gut health, metabolic wellness, or simply trying to understand where to begin, these resources can help take you to the next step. You'll also find my full script storefront where I share the supplement brands and products I personally trust and recommend. And if you take one thing away from today's conversation, let it be this: the future of weight loss may be changing. The foundations of health are not. So until next time, friend, stay nourished, stay curious, and choose wellness one thoughtful step at a time.